mysteries, prophecies, and conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
If you're hearing AI Elvis, it means it's Saturday morning, and welcome to the program. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. Welcome to our home, everybody. And if you're brand new here, PID stands for Peering into Darkness. We take a look at the spiritual activity behind today's headlines.
Theopolitics, not just geopolitics.
Oh, exactly. We don't go for geo. Well, we do some geo, but it's a lot of theo.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're new here, please download our app. That's a good way to guarantee we never get canceled from you, because our app, well, we won't cancel ourselves.
We try not to,
Yeah.
and the company, that wonderful company, Subsplash, that makes and maintains that app, they're a Christian company.
Yeah, not inclined to censor anything we say. So you can find the download for the mobile devices and links to where you can get the downloads for smart TVs and set-top boxes at pidradio.com/app or gilberthouse.org/app. Of course, gilberthouse.org being our main web hub for this burgeoning media empire that we are developing and have been working on slowly for the last 21 years.
Well, we are the OGs of podcasting.
That's right. Yes, we are the longest running continuously produced podcast on the internet, to the best of our knowledge. Mm-hmm. We've looked at a few others that have been around a long time, but I don't think there are any others that go back 21 and a half years.
No, most of the ones who started about the time we did, especially Christian podcasts, have since stopped producing podcasts. Mm-hmm. One of them was Dr. Future. I miss him.
Yep, I do. He did a wonderful program. Although he was such a stickler for detail that he was actually going through each episode before it was released and cutting out all of the ums and the ers and the breaths, even the breaths. And it's like, Mike, why are you doing that?
Well, Mike's not the only one. Joe Horn did that with the early Skywatch TV episodes.
That's true.
And now there's a plug-in you can get that will do that.
Yeah, a lot of those things will, But it is...
But that's natural conversation.
Right. So you hear all the warts and the breaths and the coughs and all that other stuff, because we're just not inclined to go back and cut that stuff out. So hopefully it's not too annoying, especially I know with my voice over the last 18 months or so.
You just sound like you got gravitas.
Oh, or like I've been smoking a lot, which I have not.
You've never smoked other than on stage. You had to smoke for a role back when you were in high school.
In college, I was...
college.
I played a role in the play. It was...
All My Sons?
No, it was...
Glass Menagerie?
Glass Menagerie, yes. The Glass Menagerie.
I knew it was a downbeat play.
Downbeat play, and the lead character is the brother of a young lady who is really overprotected, and she has a little, glass menagerie, little glass animals that she collects. Mm-hmm. And the brother is sort of telling the story, and normally it's staged where the brother will, narrate and then step into the action. And the director of our play, who actually went on to have a bit of a career in Hollywood, Tom Dabson, Jesse Dabson. He went by Tom in college, but Jesse Dabson is his actual name. And he's now a successful realtor up in Rockford, Illinois. He had me playing the older brother who was had gone on to a career as a merchant seaman, and he smoked. Mm. And so Tom wanted me to smoke Jesse wanted me to smoke in the play. And he said, now, of course, he'd be smoking Camels, and so he had me try an unfiltered Camel once. I inhaled, and I fell down. I literally fell down. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can get you some of the light cigarettes, and we'll just pretend that we'll... So, Carlton, I think, was the brand. It was like a low tar, low, it was a cigarette for people who really didn't like to smoke. And I was able to quit cold turkey as soon as the play was over.
Good thing.
But anyway, the bottom line is, my voice is being affected by this autoimmune disorder that I've been fighting. And so if I, start coughing and hacking up stuff later in the program. That's why.
And by the way, Derek mentioned to me before we started this that he's feeling a wee bit tired this morning, so we may not go an entire hour.
Well,
now, I say that,
yeah,
but knowing how we are.
And it's funny because at the conference in Ohio, I had the last presentation, which was on Saturday afternoon, and literally an hour before I was supposed to speak, I fell asleep at our book table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just sitting there in the chair, I just kind of nodded off.
Yeah, you're really dealing with some fatigue right now, which is not uncommon.
For CIDP, correct.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the OG report. But
yeah, you don't want to tip that off.
The bottom line is when we start doing something like this or a presentation, it's like the fatigue goes away. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So
we like what we're doing. And I'll tell you, the Lord is good.
Yes, yeah.
You get you through what you need to do. Well, let me kick things off. We've all seen the stories about purchasing of farmland or large tracts of land in Texas. Seems to be in Republican states where, not always, but seems to be, that it's a data center that is actually going in, and not always purchased by a U.S. company. Sometimes there are cutouts that reveal behind all of the cutouts. If you open doors 1 through 9, you find out door 10 leads to, say, China or another organization like that. I
was going to say either a data center or a new Muslim
yeah, well, I'm not even going there.
Islamic
This is about
center.
data centers.
Yeah.
There is a company called OMAT.
Okay.
And OMAT Technologies are now building their power plants to power data centers at geothermal areas. In specifically, they are saying they are building them on the Ring of Fire. This is to take advantage of volcanic activity and other geothermal activity that will allow them to use high-pressure water and steam to power the data center.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong about a big data center on the Ring of Fire?
Well,
if you don't know what the Ring of Fire is, it's not just a Johnny Cash song.
No. It is the ring of volcanoes, active volcanoes around the Pacific. Where would these be? These would have to be in California then, right?
Well,
California, Oregon,
Pacific, Asia, other parts of the Americas.
So not necessarily in the United States.
No. This is a company that's building them all along the Ring of Fire.
Okay, you threw me for a loop there when you said Republican states.
Well, I'm giving an example that data centers are being built.
Right.
But the data center in Texas is going to have to be powered by the U.S. grid.
Yeah.
Even though they say we're building our own generators.
Yeah.
And you're putting gas in those, or they're solar, or...
Well, some of these they're actually building...
Radiators? Nuclear,
plants.
Yeah. Nothing could go wrong with that either. These little mini nuke plants. Is there such a thing as a mini nuke? I mean, come on.
Well,
but Ring of Fire. What could possibly go wrong there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as long as you're throwing virgins into the volcanoes to appease the gods, you're probably fine.
Oh, and we joke about that.
Yes, I'm kidding,
but,
of course.
In fact, one of the movies that I found so distressful when I was a kid growing up was called, what was it? I'll think of it in a minute, but it had, I'll have to look it up because...
Not Joe versus the volcano.
No.
That was a comedy.
It was about a man who was a native to a small island, and he was educated in Britain, I think, and he brought his British friend back to his small island. And it was a small island that believed in doing the very thing you just mentioned to appease the deities. And so his friend fell in love with the islander's sister. And the islander's sister was the one chosen to go into the volcano.
No, that's...
Yeah, let me see if I think I can figure it out, but keep talking. You go on to your next story, and I'll see if I can find that.
Well, again, you had mentioned, large tracts of land in Republican states, and that's why my mind went to Islamic centers or mosques, because
that is going on.
Yeah, this is going on here in Texas, the so-called epic, or see if I can find the story here. There's a really good article by investigative journalist Paul Sperry, and I will put a link to this article in the show notes because it is...
Taboo.
Okay.
No, sorry. Bird of Paradise.
Bird of Paradise.
But
okay.
There was a previous version of it called Taboo because what they were doing was considered taboo. It is an old film, actually. Let's see. Oh, the original version had Joel McCrea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Dolores Del Rio and Joel McCrea, but it was remade later on. David O. Selznick did that one.
Joel McCrea, who's probably best known for...
being
Cabaret.
Gordon McCrae's brother.
For his performance in Cabaret is what I'm...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That's Joel Grey.
Joel Grey. Okay, sorry.
Joel McCrea was Gordon McCrae's brother.
Okay.
No, this is a 1932 movie.
Gotcha.
I don't think Joel Grey was that old when he passed away. Bird of Paradise. Let me look it up and see who was in it, because everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, I remember that movie. But as a kid, I thought that was awful.
Yeah, I do not remember that film at all.
Deborah Paget, Louis Jourdain played the friend, Jeff Chandler. That's the name of the character who was the islander, Tenga. And, as I remember, she jumped into the volcano in the end.
Well, no happy ending there.
Well, no, there wasn't.
No. 400 acres of Texas prairie has been purchased just outside Dallas. The East Plano Islamic Center, or EPIC City. Plano, we've got friends who live in Plano.
400 acres?
Yeah. This is intended to... it's recently been rebranded the Meadows because there was local backlash, as you might expect. Folks in Texas saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? And again, like I say, we've got friends who live in Plano.
We do.
Half of the panel of Iron and Myth lives in Plano,
Texas. It's just outside of Dallas.
Exactly. The promotional video promised the community would bring Islam to the forefront. EPIC was the group that sponsored the Muslims-only event at a public indoor water park in the Dallas area. They were promoting it as an event which would be closed to the public, Muslims only. So people were a little upset about that. It's like, we're paying our tax dollars here to support this water park for the public. They would never dream of having an event that said closed to the public Christians only, or closed to the public Jews only. That would never happen. And yet, in Texas, they were going to have this event. Now, again, it was canceled after the public protested, but Texas Republican Representative Chip Roy said Islam is on the march and no-go zones are building. There are now no-go zones in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The DFW International Airport was going to install foot washing stations in the airport. Governor Greg Abbott put a stop to that. Now, there are already in certain areas inside the airport, inside the restrooms, there are foot washing stations, but they were going to put more of them in, and in areas outside the restrooms. I mean, again, this is something that we as American Christians, we as just Americans, even if you're not a Christian, you have to look at this and say, wait a minute, this is something we need to take notice of. We need to start pushing back against this. There's another area in Katy, Texas, which is just outside Houston. Mm-hmm. In fact, our friend, now I'm forgetting his name, the archaeologist who was working is continuing to work at Shiloh, the one who found the lead curse tablet.
Scott Stripling.
Dr. Scott Stripling, right, is the provost at the Bible University there in Katy, Texas. Mm-hmm. But that's not the name of it, but it's...
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, anyway, and a Christian college there in Katy, Texas. So again, a heavily Christian area, and the Al Huda Islamic Center is planning a grand mosque, K through 12 madrasas for Quran memorization, an Islamic university, several apartment complexes, health clinics, and retail shopping centers with halal butchers.
I was going to say that very thing. They're planning a small city,
right?
400
And this
acres.
is on 30 acres of farmland.
Oh, you said 30 acres. You said originally.
That was
400.
the epic city. That was the one in Plano. This one is in Katy, Texas, outside Houston.
Oh, the 400-acre one.
The 400-acre one is in Plano.
Okay.
This one is a 30-acre center. It's according to the fundraising appeal to Muslim investors, quote, the surrounding area will also be fully constructed to provide a safe place for a community of Muslims, end quote. So, yeah, it is a problem that's growing, and it's not just limited to places like, say, Minneapolis, where you've got Islamic lawmakers, the Islamic Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, at the very least ignoring, if not facilitating, the theft of hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars by Somali immigrants who are, we're setting up the fake, leering centers, Learing, and in places like Michigan, Hamtramck, Michigan, where you've got a fully, the entire city council is Muslim, and according to Paul Sperry in his article here, most of them are under investigation for election fraud.
Well, let me ask you a question, though, because we're getting deep into the weeds of geopolitics and identity politics.
Right.
Spiritually speaking,
that is the key.
That is the key, but the geopolitics and the identity politics are ignoring that.
Right. We as Christians need to step back and, as you say, look at the spirits behind this, because it's not just the geopolitics. It's one thing to watch, say, Nick Shirley's videos. He's the young man who exposed the fraud there in Minnesota and has gone on to do the same thing in Los Angeles and elsewhere. The fact is that Muslims are intent on turning America into a Muslim nation. Why would they do that? Because the God they serve, which is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh is not Allah, is intent on world domination, just as he was back in the day.
Pre-flood.
In the pre-flood world, when he went by the name Shemiyaza, or whatever name he was, known by to his colleagues. Mm-hmm.
Shemiyaza is the name that we get from First Enoch.
Book of First Enoch, yes. The leader of the rebellious sons of God in Genesis chapter 6, the ones who came down and made a plot to corrupt humanity through commingling with the human bloodline and corrupting the genome, and by teaching us things we weren't supposed to know.
I want to mention something that if you're new to PID Radio, you may not have heard Derek and me talk about this, but in December of 2020, a conjunction occurred. I think they called it the Great Mutation or something like that. Great Mutato.
The Great Mutation,
when Saturn, the planet Saturn, and the planet
Jupiter
were so like 1 degree apart in the sky. So they looked like they were one unit.
Yeah.
And you saw all over the place Christmas star.
Yeah.
No, that is not what it was. It was not the Christmas star. It was not the same thing that the Magi followed to find the infant Jesus. No, not at all. However, it did appear to be as if the sun, Zeus, / Satan, because he was called that, / Baal, was handing back the reins, the control, the monarchy, the throne, to Daddy.
Yeah.
Shemyaza / Satan / Kronos.
Not Saturn, Saturn.
Saturn, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I said Satan was Baal / Zeus.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sorry, I misspoke.
Handing the reins back to old Daddy, who is currently in the abyss, the bottomless pit, Tartarus, according to Peter, 2 Peter 2, verse 4. The word translated hell is actually Tartarosis, not Hades or Sheol or Gehenna. It's Tartarus, which is a separate level of the netherworld. And we know that there are rebellious angels. And in the context of 2 Peter, they can only be the ones from Genesis chapter 6 who are confined in the abyss.
You know, here's the irony about that occurring in December of 2020. It was just before, you're looking around like you need something.
No.
Okay. It was just before, just at the end of the election year. We had an election, did not go well for Trump.
Right, yeah.
It was just before January 6th of the next year, 2021.
Right.
January 6th being known as Epiphany, the day that the God can be seen. We all know what happened on that day, but why I find that so interesting is that the Capitol, TOL, our congressional building, is called such because it's named after the Capitolium in Rome. The Capitol Hill in Rome was the home of Saturn / Zeus. And I say it that way because when Saturn was, yes, it was. When Saturn was deposed...
It was Mons Saturnus. When you said Saturn / Zeus, it's...
No, I'm explaining that.
Okay.
Mount Saturnus, but then Saturn was thrown to the bottom of that hill, and it became Zeus's throne.
Yeah,
because
Jupiter.
Jupiter would have been Jupiter in Rome. Saturn was now at the bottom. The sun, allegedly the sun, they lied, was sitting at the top. Wouldn't it be interesting if you look at it in Washington that one was overthrown and another took its place? I'm not talking about politicians.
Yeah.
I am talking about the idea of worshiping one and then worshiping another. Because in Washington, even though many politicians, this is my opinion, by the way, and even though many politicians say they are Christians, they aren't necessarily Christians.
No.
Even our founding fathers, some of them were deists.
Yeah.
Some were Christians. Some were not necessarily. They just were Christian sort of socially.
Ish.
Yeah. Christian-ish. The idea that going from a window of opportunity for Christianity during the Trump administration to a, frankly, closed window that led to darkness.
Yeah. Prosecuting people for praying outside abortion clinics.
Yeah, loss of free speech.
Right.
A lot of things happened during the next 4 years that we'd all like to forget.
Yeah.
And I am not saying President Trump was Saturn. I'm saying that it's interesting that that occurred at that time, just before Washington, which I will say this. Our president, any president of the United States, is often called the leader of the free world. I think that's a misnomer, but that's the perception. And the rest of the world, especially the English-speaking world, look to what goes on in Washington for a sort of idea of what's going on throughout the world. The late David Flynn believed that, and now I get into where I've been talking, he believed that a female spirit actually ran Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That the Virgin,
Constellation Virgo, yeah.
was stretched out right over Washington, D.C. And oddly enough, the symbol of this country is a sort of woman, looks more like a guy in a dress, but sort of woman.
Statue of Liberty, yeah.
Holding up a torch, which is exactly how you see Inanna. Inanna is often pictured holding up a torch, as is many of the deities, female deities, that represented her as well, including Venus and Ishtar, and the idea of being a grain goddess, bringing light to the world, queen of the heaven, queen of the earth, queen under the earth.
So she wanted to be.
Yeah. She didn't quite get there.
Didn't know.
But my point is that we are soaking in a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And there are things that are signs in the heavens, and Jesus told us that there would be signs in the heavens. I think that great mutation was one.
Yeah, I agree. Things really ramped up. Things ramped up after 2012, actually, with the so-called Mayan apocalypse.
David Flynn, we have a PID radio somewhere where David Flynn was talking about that.
I've got one with Chris White also talking about the 2012 scam, about how the whole thing was a bunch of hooey.
Well, I'm not sure it was.
Yeah, I think the end of the age that everybody was, that certain apocalypsts were talking about in 2010, 2011, that didn't come to pass. But I think there was a shift that took place where things that were previously considered just, unthinkable here in the United States over the past 14 years, since 2012, have become the norm, where if you dare speak out against them, for example, the idea that a man can declare himself to be a woman and then everybody's got to treat him as such, or they're haters, especially in the halls of academia, or even Supreme Court justices who, when asked to define what a woman is, like, well, I'm not a biologist.
Or a women's basketball team.
The WNBA, yeah, where a couple of former NBA players, Enes Kanter-Freedom and Royce White, have declared themselves for the next WNBA draft because, according to the WNBA's rules, there is nothing that prohibits a biological male from competing in the WNBA. And, a guy who was, an
it's
average...
called women's basketball.
But they held a meeting, and Kathy Engelbert is the commissioner of the WNBA, called a meeting of a number of team presidents and general managers and so forth, and they came away without reaching a decision. It's a very nuanced subject, and no, it's not nuanced at all. If the dude's got XY, then he's not eligible to play in the WNBA.
Exactly.
But they can't bring themselves to say that because they're so woke.
Kids.
No, it's not hard, but they're making it difficult. And look, Enes Kanter and Royce White aren't actually trans. They're just trying to make a point, and they're trying to force the WNBA into taking a stand. Because at least one of the players in the WNBA, Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever, has said flat out that men should not be allowed in women's sports. And she's getting booed in some of the arenas.
I saw a story this morning, I think it was a European basketball team, where a trans player, I'm sorry, but that trans player looks just like a guy.
He is a dude with long hair. It's a French player.
You have done nothing to transition to being a female. You're just a guy.
Yeah. And sadly, under WNBA rules, if one of those teams offered him a contract, Well, he would be suddenly the best player in the league. So yeah, it's we're living in a crazy world. And again, I think a lot of this started to pick up in 2012 and ramped up even further in 2020.
In 2020, a lot of things happened then.
Signs in the heavens.
Yeah, I would. I think you can still get the David Flynn collection from Skywatch TV Store if they have it. If they have any, get it now because they probably will not reprint them. It is a really wonderful connection. It's a large coffee table size book. It's paperback, but as I remember, it's got color pictures in it.
Yeah.
That's expensive to print.
I will take a look right now to see if that is available because last time I looked, I didn't see it.
Well, that's a shame because that collection is really wonderful.
No, it's not available.
Yeah, he was one of a kind.
Yeah, the only Flynn book being offered at the store is his brother's Mark Flynn, Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth.
Yeah, which is also a really good book.
Yeah.
Mark and David, twin brothers, identical twin brothers, as I recall. Did you know Tim Alberino has a twin?
I did.
What's with these guys?
Yeah.
Do you have a twin somewhere?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, I'll ask your mom next time I see her.
Yeah.
God bless her. She's got end-stage Alzheimer's. She'll probably just go, who?
Yeah. Sadly, at this point, that's probably true. Well, anyway, the Middle East is getting spicy as 8 nations have rejected Israel's resettlement plan for an area called E1. These 8 nations would be Turkey, or Turkey A, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Indonesia, Qatar, Egypt, Pakistan, and Jordan. So those are the 8. Now, I saw a story that was floating around, which was not correct. It claimed that these 8 nations went further and claimed that they were demanding that Israel return to the pre-1967 borders. What these foreign ministries actually said is that the E1 plan threatens the establishment and viability of an independent and geographically contiguous Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the capital. That's not quite the same thing as saying Israel needs to return to the pre-1967 borders. But it is a little surprising that the UAE signed on to this. I know the Saudis have been kind of walking a tightrope with wanting to do more business with Israel and keeping their people happy. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who's the real power in Saudi Arabia, his father, King Salman, he's not a young man. He's pretty old.
In fact, I don't know that he's been in the news at all lately.
No, he's been very quiet. Mohammed bin Salman runs the country. And he's on record as saying, I don't care about the Palestinians, but my people do. So, therefore, he has to, again, be careful what he does politically. Egypt, they've been actually moving more troops into the Sinai Peninsula, and so Israel is watching that very closely. Indonesia, Pakistan, I'm not sure where their thoughts are on this. Indonesia is Muslim, yes, but not Arab. So I don't know that they really care much about the Palestinians either. It's just may be a political statement to keep them on the right side of the Saudis. But the UAE had been getting pretty friendly with Israel. The Israelis sent units with their, not David Sling, but the other the Iron Dome, anti-missile missiles to the UAE to protect the UAE during
against Iran.
Against Iran. So it's a little surprising that they would join in.
Didn't they sign the Abraham Accords?
They did. And there were some who were looking at this and saying, well, see, that means the Abraham Accords are done. Like, well, I don't know that it means that. And there may be some back channel communication between the foreign ministries of some of these nations and Israel that we don't know about. The E1 plan is a plan to build more housing units in an area to the east.
Yeah, it's that Ma'ale Adumim area along Highway 1.
Yeah, east and northeast of some of the Arab neighborhoods of East Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, if you look at Jerusalem as a clock, it's at about 2 o'clock or so.
Yeah. And the reason that these Muslim nations are protesting it is because it would put a Jewish area, an Israeli area, in between predominantly Arab areas, and it would make it very difficult for any future Palestinian state, which ain't going to happen. I mean, especially since October 7th, the Israelis are not going to allow an independent Palestinian state.
Oh, never.
Done. Yeah, the polls shifted pretty strongly against the idea of an independent Palestinian state after October 7th, whereas before it was leaning to, majority of Israelis were like, yeah, as long as we can live in peace, we're fine. And then Hamas overplayed its hand, killed 1,200 Israelis, and that I think is no longer on the table. No matter how the world pressures Israel, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But putting an Israeli neighborhood in that E1 area would make it very difficult for a Palestinian state to have contiguous areas. You'd have little islands of Arab neighborhoods that would, hey, we're an independent nation. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's what the other nations are complaining about. But the Turks have gone even further, and Erdogan has issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, and they're trying to get Interpol to issue what they call a red card or something similar to that. They're trying to get Interpol to...
A red card? Isn't that something they hand out in football?
Yeah.
International football, soccer.
Yeah. The good luck enforcing this. The Erdogan government issued an international arrest warrant for Netanyahu. And this is part of its investigation into Israel's interception of one of its aid flotillas for Gaza.
Oh, I see.
That happened back in May. There were about 50 vessels involved. There were some 500 international activists. I don't remember. Was Greta Thunberg was part of that or not? She probably was.
I can't remember if she was or not. But isn't that the group that they were playing games on the decks and looked like they were really happy, and even when the Israelis boarded, they didn't seem to be bothered until it became an opportunity for PR.
Yeah, and that's basically what this is too. The Turks, well, at least the ones with neo-Ottoman ambitions like Erdogan, want to put the old Ottoman Empire back together, which collapsed 100 years ago. 1922, I think, was when it was officially dissolved after World War I.
It was pretty much done in 1918.
Right. Yeah, it was 22 when they finally, dissolved it. And Ataturk was the leader.
Ataturk modernized
it, westernized it, and Erdogan is wanting to go back to some of those ways anyway. I think he's more interested in the political power than the actual religious aspects of the Ottoman Empire. But again, from a theopolitical standpoint, this is, again, another example of Islam and the God it serves wanting to take over the world. The Turks don't like the Arabs. Generally speaking, Turks don't like Arabs. So this declaration of support for the Palestinian people is nothing more than a political move to try to assert his political control over Jerusalem. Basically, they believe that it once belonged to the Ummah, the Islamic world, and so it must always belong to the Islamic world. That is the belief of Muslims, which is why the irony of Spain allowing in, 500,000 Muslim immigrants. And I'm not even talking about, the Muslims that have stormed the little enclaves sitting there in North Africa.
Ceuta or Ceuta, I've heard it pronounced all sorts of ways.
But, letting them into mainland Spain, when it took Spain 700 years to drive them out after the conquest back in the early 8th century.
Now, we'll talk a little more about that. So we're going to circle back to that story in a second. But while you're talking about Turkey, I want to mention a story that I just found this morning on my news feed, and it's about scientists who are taking a look at the Dearborn formation.
Oh, yeah, in Turkey.
In eastern Turkey.
Yeah.
And it is thought by some friends of ours that is the site of Noah's Ark.
Yeah, we interviewed Rick Renner about that on our program, The Bible's
We were
Greatest
going to go
Mysteries.
see it. And
last June.
Yeah,
right?
it just didn't work out because, it's a little too rugged terrain for us to get around very safely. So we just had
you would have been fine. I would have really struggled.
I'll just say us. The new technology being used is a type of radar, and it is able to go more deeply into the earth to see what's underneath the not only underneath the rock that is visible, but also underneath the formation that's under that rock to see if it's sitting on bedrock or if it's sitting what it's sitting on. And they cannot rule out that this is a constructed formation.
In other words, it's not natural.
Right. So at this point, more investigations to take place. But I think that's really important because scientists, I believe, non-Christian scientists, have been trying to prove, no, that's not possibly Noah's Ark. It's just a rock.
Yeah.
It's sort of like those who dismiss the Serpentine Ridge by Gilgal Rephaim and go, it's just a natural lava flow. It doesn't matter if it's a natural lava flow or something that was artificially constructed. The fact is it was worshipped because there are, a couple of hundred monuments on the back of it? 140 monuments. Some of them are miniature Gilgal Rephaim duplicates.
Right. We talked to Dr. Mike Freakman, who we met at the site.
And I walked up there and I looked around.
Yeah.
What was up there? I think you did too. Or did you stay below?
No, I was up there.
Okay.
That was when I could still walk around.
Because I know. I know. We're going to get back to that one day. Even if it's just when we are with the Lord, we will be running free with dachshunds.
There we go.
Our little ears flapping in the wind.
That's it. He sectioned into a couple of those circular formations on the back of Gilgal Rephaim and found that they were, in fact, miniature versions of Gilgal Rephaim.
Does he think all of them are?
Yeah.
Wow, because there are cairns on top of them.
Yeah.
So was there a full-size cairn over the middle part of the big Gilgal? In other words, there are rocks covering a lot of it. It's difficult to get up there.
Yeah, it definitely was.
It's a challenge.
In fact, the only reason there's a hole in the roof is because the excavation in 1990, they pulled a bunch of rocks off the top of the central core and never put them back.
Yeah.
So, they damaged it. But the smaller versions on the back of the Serpentine Ridge, or we call the Serpent Mound of Bashan, are very similar in construction, circular rings of stone around a central core.
Well, I think what's important to remember, if you're not aware of this, my friends, is that Bashan means place of the serpent.
Yeah. And as I asked in my presentation at the Remnant Rising conference, is that a coincidence? Well, only if you're a coincidence theorist.
No, we're not.
Yeah, and we are not. So, no, I think that may well be the reason that the ancient kingdom of Bashan was called Bashan, the place of the serpent.
We should probably send Rick Renner back to this story. send him a note and just say, we're pretty sure you've seen this article, but are you in contact with any of these scientists?
Yeah. And, of course, we know, we're friends with Aaron Judkins, who was part of the team that went with, I'm going to forget who the lead archaeologist was, but they were part of a documentary about 10 years ago called Finding Noah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We should find that documentary and watch it.
Yeah. Quite good. And Aaron was part of that team. So, yeah, the Dearborn site is one that has been identified for a long time as a potential site. So this is interesting that they're finally getting up there with this type of new technology to explore that site, which, a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. Why don't you get up there with ground-penetrating radar? Well, it's not an easy place to get to, first of all. And then you've got to get permits, and it's in an area where you need a Kurdish guide because the Kurds control that area for the most part. It's almost semi-autonomous. So anyway, yeah, that's a very interesting story, though.
But circling back to the Soita, however it's pronounced, I've heard all three of those. The town that's just on the border with Morocco.
Yeah.
The town that's part of Spain.
Yeah, little Spanish enclave there on the south of the Straits of Gibraltar.
That's a really interesting area.
Gibraltar.
Yeah, I wish we could go there too because southern Spain has lots of stuff.
Phoenician sites.
Yes, indeed. Well, getting back to the invasion, and I'll just call it that because if that many people crossed into your town, you'd call it an invasion too. Apparently there are animals missing. Dogs, cats.
Like President Trump during the campaign.
They're eating
the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Well, apparently that's actually happening, and similar things were taking place as of last year. Now, I don't know if there's been anything else this summer, but there were areas where geese and pigeons and small pets were going missing and then found leftovers.
Yeah. It's kind of... You hate to sound prejudiced when you say things like this, but when you're coming from a culture where you eat what you can get because you don't have much else.
Yeah, my heart goes out to anybody who is starving.
Yeah.
And if you are raised in a culture where you just walk out your door and you kill what you find and that's what you eat, then we do understand that. But in the UK, it is illegal to kill many of these animals. In fact, some of them were swans, and all the swans technically belong to the monarchy.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to hurt them.
Yeah. And in the UK, people who complain about the new arrivals, let's just use that term, are often visited by the police for propagating hate crimes.
Yeah.
Wasn't it complaints about, it was an act of violence that took place, but Lucy Connolly complained about that on social media.
She shared a tweet that someone else put up.
Shared a tweet, okay, and then later deleted her share of that tweet.
Quickly deleted it, and I think it had to do. I think her tweet had to do with that terrible murder at the school where those young girls were killed.
Little dance school, yeah.
Yeah, in Southport,
yes. And she wound up spending
a couple of years
in jail because of sharing someone else's tweet.
Yeah, she's got a podcast now, by the way.
Well, good for her, because the United Kingdom is becoming a no free speech zone. We in the United States need to be watching what's happening in the UK because that will be coming here. And in fact, there have been a couple of cases here where people have been visited for posting things to social media critical of local government. On the other side of the coin, speaking of social media, are those, I think, who spend way too much time on the internet.
Yeah.
Way too much time. I would say it's fair to claim that social media has contributed to an epidemic of insanity.
Well, yeah.
Of mental illness here in the United States. It becomes a feedback loop because the algorithms will feed you more of what you're looking at. And if you're looking at things that are telling you the world is awful, it's a horrible place, and it's totally unfair, and you have no chance to get ahead because the odds are, the cards are stacked against you, you wind up a much angrier, more bitter person, and perhaps, say you're from a group that has a lifestyle where you claim that the normies out there are all, hate you and want to eliminate you. You may be motivated to commit an act of mass harm that really bears no relationship to reality.
You and I talked about this many times. In fact, we talked about it a bit this morning. I think, and this is my opinion, I think that social media is creating a whole generation of main character syndrome sufferers.
Yeah.
And I say sufferers because, sadly, these are individuals who see themselves as starring in a movie. Mm-hmm. In a way, we all kind of are like that.
Right.
But this is to the degree that other people aren't real.
Yeah, they're non-playing characters.
In other words, whatever you do is you're not really harming anybody because they're not real, or they're at least not as important as you.
Yeah. And that will lead people to do things or say things on the internet without considering the consequences to anyone else. I hate to bring her into the conversation because I would really like to just ignore her and wish she would go away, and that is Candace Owens. But, it's bad enough that she spent the last year and a half poisoning the well when it comes to the, jury pool in the Tyler Robinson murder case by coming up with all of these conspiracy theories that, if any of them were valid, you think that the defense attorneys for Tyler Robinson, who apparently are some very good attorneys from what I've read, the three lead attorneys in his defense team are all highly respected and very good.
Who's paying for them?
His parents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In other words, these are not court-appointed legal, public defenders.
Yeah.
If any of her theories had any merit to them at all, you'd think that they would have said, "Hey, let's investigate this and bring this up into court." And to that end, and they have not. Let's just put it that way. She saw fit to weigh in on the case of Lindsay Clancy, who is a woman in Plymouth, Massachusetts, who is on trial for the murder of her 3 young children. She has confessed. Clancy has confessed. Candace Owens said she's innocent. It's like
hold on. She confessed. So technically, she's guilty.
Yeah.
Of the
Tyler
crime.
Robinson confessed too, and that didn't stop her in the Charlie Kirk case. So Robinson confessed to his parents, to his lover, to a deputy, and even to the what is it, Discord or group that he's part of.
Yeah.
Anyway, that didn't stop her. So she had but apparently she went a step too far, even for her followers who are all on board with the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. The fact that a woman who killed her 3 children and confessed to it, and then Candace went and said, nope, she's innocent. I believe she's innocent. She's been forced to walk that back. But there's still a mob of women decked out in pink protesting outside the Plymouth Superior Courthouse in Plymouth, Massachusetts, in support of Lindsay Clancy, arguing that she should go free. Now, the defense team is not challenging the charges of murder. I mean, again, their client has confessed, but what they are claiming is that she should not be held criminally responsible because she was mentally ill and suffering from postpartum psychosis, and that the antidepressant drugs that she was put on, SSRIs,
which have terrible side effects in some cases,
should be, they should be held responsible. And so she should be found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Okay, I think she could be found guilty of murder with extenuating circumstances, in which case they could send her to a place where she can get mental health care. There are prison systems that are also mental institutions. I think that, at the very least, this case brings up discussions about depression.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, but
No
also what else can go along with that?
Yeah.
You brought this up, that social media is leading to alterations in our thinking, and alterations perhaps even in our emotional state.
Yeah.
The way we view the world. I think it is leading to not only main character syndrome, but also massive depression. Massive depression, and I think that perhaps there's a possibility that other things were going on in this woman's life. If she confessed, then yes, she did it.
Mm-hmm.
The children are dead, and they're with the Lord.
Yeah.
What happens to her? Do I think that she should be executed? I don't know if there's a death penalty in that state or not.
Massachusetts, I doubt it.
She is guilty, however, with extenuating circumstances. So, no, she can't be deemed innocent.
No, and the fact that she was unbalanced mentally and spiritually to the point where she even considered taking the lives of her 3 children.
You call for help.
Yeah, you don't act on that. And sadly, this has happened far too often. I think I've mentioned before, one of the first, early in my radio career, I worked as a radio newsman for a small radio station, AM/FM combo, northwest of Chicago, out in Crystal Lake, Illinois. One of my responsibilities was to call what we called the cop shops. We would call the local police departments in the area to ask if there was anything going on that was worth reporting. You know, accidents, whatever that would make the news. And I called the police department in Dundee, Illinois, and they told me that they were in pursuit of a woman who had, in the parking lot of a restaurant on Route 31, Illinois Route 31, had taken a steak knife to her 2 children in the back seat of her car.
Oh, gosh.
And an off-duty police officer had spotted what was going on, thought the woman was in distress because he saw her leaning over from the driver's side into the back seat and couldn't tell what she was doing. Went over to see if he could be of help, and then saw what was happening and began pounding on her window. And at that point, she turned around, put the car in gear, and took off. They finally caught her, and at that point, the story, because it was so horrific, the Chicago stations picked up on it. In fact, I called into the big all-news station, which was WBBM, still is, I think, AM 780, and I had a report run on WBBM. But from there, then they dispatched their own reporter to follow up on the story, and I lost control. Since I had to go back to school, I was like freshman or sophomore year of college at that point. I don't know what happened to the woman. But there are other stories like that. We talked this morning about one that was...
Susan Smith back in 1994.
Susan Smith, right. She was the one who claimed that her
claimed a black man carjacked her car, and that he was responsible for the 2 children being found in a lake.
Right.
She actually had been having an affair, and the man that she was having an affair with wanted to break up with her because he didn't want to be with a woman who had children.
Yeah. Horrific. If I remember the story from that I had reported on, and I'm a little surprised looking back on it that the police officer the person I talked to at the police department had let me know what was going on at that point. I mean, I think that was a little surprising. But if I remember the story correctly, the woman had been convinced that it was the end of days and the Antichrist would soon be coming, and she did not want her children to have to live through the reign of the Antichrist, and so she wanted to send them to heaven.
Same story about a woman down in Texas who did that very thing. She drowned her kids. Because she was afraid. She'd been following an itinerant preacher, if I remember right, and he had convinced her that the kids were going to be going through the end of days, and that she thought it would be better to send them to heaven.
Yeah, but again, getting back to the theopolitics behind all of this, these are spiritual illnesses that are inflicted by, frankly, demons that are afflicting the people involved, and because of, and we're not saying that mental illness didn't play a role in any of these cases.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
But at some point, even in the middle of mental illness, you have to stop and say, what am I doing? I have to get somebody to help me before I commit this act. And there's a spirit whispering in the ear of the person who does it. And sadly, these women who were outside the court in Massachusetts on Thursday protesting for Lindsay Clancy, come on, at some point you have to say, okay, look, we can empathize with the postpartum depression, which, as you say, is a real thing. But when it becomes so severe that you're threatened, that you find yourself wanting to harm your own child, you've got to call for help. And these women who are standing in support, what are they actually saying here? Are they saying she should go free, or I'm not quite clear what they want.
Where are the women protesting regarding men wearing dresses, taking over roles in politics, sports, activity, being allowed to possibly harm a real woman because men are built differently?
Well, yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of injuries that could take place with a man playing in a women's league.
Yeah. And when you get a guy who's like 6'8", 260.
Yeah, and you've got a woman who maybe is 6 foot, 6'2".
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, even if she's muscular.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
No. Oh gosh, who was the woman who was arrested in Russia last year? The WNBA player who got caught with marijuana.
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah.
For drugs.
Anyway, she one of the greatest WNBA players of all time, and she got herself caught with a small amount of marijuana, wound up spending time in...
Brittany Griner.
Brittany Griner, thank you. And she was traded by the Biden administration for Victor Bout, who is an international arms dealer. It's like, yeah, we'll get back the basketball player and trade them this guy who was... selling
She's got
weapons.
Cannabis oil in her luggage, but, that's really more dangerous to the world than this guy.
Yeah. Anyway, you put her next to Enes Kanter, and it's like, I'm sorry. If the two of them are jockeying for position for a rebound, Kanter's going to win 10 times out of 10. I'm sorry. And there are plays where things get a little, physical. I mean, you see in the WN, even in the NBA, although it's not as physical as it was back in the time of, say, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and those guys. You start getting a little physical where you've got a dude in there with women, and a woman is going to stand a good chance of getting injured.
Right. Brittany Griner is 6'9". She allegedly weighs 219.
Yeah.
So she is sizable. However,
yeah,
women are built differently.
For 6'9".
I know it is. And I'm sure that she doesn't have any fat on her body. Whatever weight she has is mainly organs, bones, and muscle.
Yeah.
Good for her. But if an NBA player came up against her, he would win.
Yeah.
And he might hurt her.
Again, somebody that tall, 6'9", generally you're going to find the guy, at minimum, he's going to be thin. He's at 225. But some of those guys, 6'9", can go up to, 275, 280, and still be mostly muscle.
Really bulked up, yeah. And I would argue everybody listening to this, most people at least, are aware that you've been dealing with physical limitations because of the CIDP and the COPD and the various things you're dealing with. I would argue that if you and I got into a tussle, which would never happen, you would still probably win.
If I could keep my balance.
Well, you have upper body strength.
Yeah.
You are taller than I am. I'm 5'5"-ish. I might be slightly less than that. I have been measured for a while, but you get older. And you're almost 6 feet tall, so you would win.
The fact is, the average man is built to be more sturdy, more stout than the average woman.
Yeah.
And there are some examples, some exceptions to that rule. Guys who are, much thinner than the average, and women that are burlier than average. But
plus, you outweigh me by about 70 pounds.
Well, there's that too. But I've seen a number of videos where women who thought they could, outdo men in physical contests wind up getting embarrassed most of the time. I mean, the women's U.S. Olympic soccer team a few years back was very famously defeated by a boys' 15, I think freshman high school team, like 15 and under or something like this. And they beat them pretty handily. A sports commentator who hosts a daily talk show. In fact, it was Clay Travis who was teamed up with Buck Sexton. They took over Rush Limbaugh's old radio time slot. Clay Travis founded a sports website called Outkick that has now since been purchased by Fox. Travis was willing to put up a couple million of his own money to have the Las Vegas Stars, who won the WNBA championship last year, play a boys' state high school championship basketball team of his choosing to prove the point that he's also now said that he wants to, I think we may have mentioned this a few weeks ago, get an expansion franchise in the WNBA for his hometown of Nashville, and that he would only draft and sign trans women to his team. And so, again, just trying to make the point that the WNBA is so woke, and this gets back to where, the conversation 15 years ago, we wouldn't have even considered the possibility. I mean, people who said that men could be women and women could be men, and that, it's like you'd be laughed out of the public square. But now if you go into a university and say that you'll never get tenure here, or, again, we've got a Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who said she couldn't define what a woman is because she's not a biologist.
Well, I have said this before. When I first went back to college, as an older student, I was told you have to take women's studies because you're an incoming woman. And I said, no, I won't be doing that. And he said, no, you have to take at least so many classes of women's studies. And I said, why? well, because they're specialized to help you fit into the classroom and this and that. I said, no. And I'm betting that that's not required. Nope, I'm here to become I was pre-med. I said, I'm not taking those things. And why would you push me to do that? Well, now on these campuses, an incoming male freshman would probably be told you have to take women's studies.
Yeah, probably. It's again, it's a spiritual
propagandizing.
thing. It's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Because we don't want men to be men. Because men, if we fulfill our God-given roles as defined in the Bible, we are to exhibit what the world now calls toxic masculinity, not to the point where we're dominating our women and telling their wives what to do. Ephesians 5 is pretty clear that while we are supposed to be the heads of our household, we are to love our wives as Christ loved the church. How did he love the church? Well, he was willing to die for it.
Exactly.
So I suspect that everything, up to it, and maybe even including that if the situation warranted it, is the kind of love we're supposed to show to our wives. And that does not mean then bossing our wives around and keeping them, under our thumbs. That's not how Christ loved the church.
And honestly, that was radically different from the way most of society at that time in the first century.
Yeah.
Where the men were essentially rulers of the entire family.
Tyrants.
And tyrants. In fact, I mentioned this in the Red Wing saga, that there were 12 tables, 12 laws, and they were called 12 tables, that sort of governed families and society in general. And the fourth table allowed the paterfamilias, the father in the family, the head of the household, to decide whether or not a child lived or died. He was able to say, "Look, no, that's not a boy. I wanted I wanted a son. It's a girl. Put her out in the town square, and if somebody gets her, fine. And if the wolves take her, with it, big deal. That one is defective. Put him out in the town square." He could just say, "Keep it, trash it."
Yeah. That was the way Romans organized their households.
Exactly. That was the way Romans did. But Rome was governing society in the Middle East.
Yeah. So, Christianity was something new and different. And while those who oppose the gospel of Jesus Christ would like people to believe that it perpetuates a dictatorial, patriarchal view of society. That's not at all what the Bible describes. And that is why we see the emphasis on women's studies. Let's emasculate men.
I honestly do think that it's likely young men coming in are told that they have to take women's studies.
I have no doubt.
In order to understand women better, and maybe you're a woman inside, who knows?
Yeah, and your desire to do manly things, well, that's just really, that's bad. We need to...
It used to be that going to college was for about 10, 15% of each graduating class. Everybody else went to trade schools or went directly into a job. Now, those sheepskins are being sold to everybody, and it puts a lot of kids in debt, and it also allows for propagandizing.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to rabbit trail.
Yeah, I know, but
spiritually
speaking, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But getting back to social media, that allows propagandizing to take place in a huge landscape.
Yeah. What would the word be for propagandizing, but from a spiritual perspective? Maybe just spiritual propagandizing.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with...
There should be a specific word for it.
Spirit props.
But and again, we have to be, tolerant to all of the new arrivals. The fact that there are places in America now where it's legal to sacrifice animals in your backyard. Again, Muslim.
I know.
Communities.
Even so, come Lord Jesus, please.
Amen. Amen.
So, let's get to
the OG report.
OG report.
Yeah. Well, got more test results this week. Had some blood work done.
Lots of blood taken. In fact, she was squeezing on your vein, trying to get it to come out.
Yeah, there was, because my hematologist-oncologist had some blood work that he needed done, and the nurse practitioner for my primary care physician's office also had some things they wanted to check, thyroid stimulating hormone levels and stuff like that. But we did find in the stuff that the hematologist-oncologist wanted an increase in a protein called a lambda-free light chain protein, a rather substantial increase, about a 25% increase over the previous month, because I had this test done just a month ago. The level is well above the normal high boundary for this particular protein in the blood. Now, when I saw him last month, he said it was not a high enough level to be concerned about. He called it smoldering myeloma, which means it's not myeloma, which is a type of bone marrow and blood cancer, but it could become such. So I have to see him every 4 months going forward. We'll probably have to have that same blood test done every 4 months just to check on this level.
You better make some more bloods.
Yeah. So the increase from last month to this month, which again is about a 25% jump, I don't know what that means. We'll find out on Tuesday when we go to see him. Also this past week, you might have noticed if you are looking at our Substack account, or if you've subscribed to us through your favorite podcatcher, there was no Wayback Wednesday for A View from the Bunker or Throwback Thursday for PID Radio, which we've been doing for a few months now. And that was because we just had a lot of stuff going on the previous couple of weeks. After the conference 2 weeks ago, immediately had to go to get the intravenous immunoglobulin infusions, which hit me with some flu-like symptoms afterwards. So I was not really feeling like doing much.
You're still
but
kind
this
of
past week I was
that.
really not, like you mentioned at the beginning of this program, feeling fatigued.
Yeah,
I
and
slept
you
a
came
good
to
11
bed.
hours last night.
You were chilled when you came to bed last night. Asked me if you had a fever.
Yeah. And that was, I slept 11 hours last night. That was after napping a couple hours yesterday afternoon.
You napped for 3 hours.
And I will probably, that long?
I think you napped for 3 hours.
Okay, yeah. So it's just been a strange kind of couple of weeks where I just have not felt really sick, but at the same time just really not felt like doing anything either. Just tired enough where getting anything done was just a chore. Yesterday I finally managed to pull enough energy together to write Monday's Just 5 Things, which would be about the Philistines. But it took the better part of the afternoon to get it done, because I'd write one line and then I would just kind of lay back in the chair. It's like, I don't want to do anymore. So that's just kind of what I'm fighting through right now. It's just a lot of fatigue.
Well, on Monday you have 2 MRIs.
3.
3 MRIs, that's right. Cervical, lumbar, and thoracic.
Yes, all 3 parts of my spine. So they're getting the whole nice pictures of my spine.
It'll be wonderful, and then you'll autograph them. And on Tuesday you're going to see the hematologist-oncologist.
Right. So we'll have more to report next weekend on the OG report.
Yeah, and I know many of you out there, you're dealing with stuff too.
Yeah.
It could be simply that you are dealing with postpartum depression or just depression, or you're dealing with other issues of aging. Perhaps you have an autoimmune disorder. Perhaps you've got some sort of chronic issue. Perhaps you're caring for someone with a chronic issue. Those things sap your strength. And so I know you get it. And we just want you to know that we will never, Derek and I will never think that we're we don't have main character syndrome at all.
No.
There is a main character, and that is Jesus Christ. He is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And we had a wonderful neighbor who stopped by yesterday, and he was saying that he's constantly amazed that the Lord can love him enough to do what he did. And I said, yeah, honestly, it amazes me sometimes too. And I don't understand it now, and we may never understand it fully, because in order to understand it fully, we have to sort of be in the mind of God.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult for us to do. We are finite creations created by God. So just know that the Lord, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, he loves you so much that I think that even if you were the only one who needed salvation, he'd have still done it.
Yeah. That's the thing to remember. I mean, it's very easy to blame God. Why did he make me this way? Or why did he, why are the evil prospering while I'm struggling? Totally understandable. We see verses like that, especially in the Psalms. David, during his low periods in life, asking God why these things happen. Job, of course, the book of Job, about a guy who's dealing with all these things and demanding to know why God allowed these evil things to happen to him, the loss of his children, the loss of his wealth, and loss of his health. And then God comes along and, hey, where were you when I laid the foundations of the universe? And Job immediately remembered, hey, I am not the main character in this story.
Even though this story's named after me.
Yeah. Even if you slay me, I will still praise your name. So, yeah, Job got his thinking right again pretty quickly. Much better than his friends did, actually.
Yeah, I don't know about those friends.
Yeah. With friends like that, yeah. So, yeah, it is easy to question God or blame God. But remember, he loved you enough to endure the most painful experience known to humanity, going to the cross. So we are still planning to go to Israel next October.
We would love for you to join us. And I guarantee it will be an experience that you will talk about for the rest of your life.
We will take you places most other tours do not. We are blessed in that we partner with a tour company that is owned by archaeology nerds just like us. In fact, I thought that was pretty cool. Aaron Lipkin posted, he said, I'd never heard of dolmens before. And then, now he knows that there are thousands of them all over the Golan Heights and the Upper Galilee.
I'm laughing, too, because a couple of days ago, I posted a picture of myself from 1975, and Aaron comments on it. That's when I was born.
Yeah.
Okay, in 1970, I was 22 in that picture. Okay, Aaron, I technically could be your mother.
Yeah.
I'm not, but,
Yeah. It was like Josh Peck would love us to point out the fact that my radio career, which began full-time in 1984, is the same year he was born. So these young kids.
These whippersnappers.
But anyway,
we want to take you
to some of these locations and explain why these are part of the long supernatural war of the Watchers.
Exactly. You can go down into the tumulus at Gilgal Rephaim. You can see how it was used to communicate with the fallen realm. You can pray there. And we do that. You can walk around and prayer map that whole area. Nobody's going to stop you except on the Temple Mount. Yeah,
the Temple Mount. We have to be a little more cautious there. Although, story we didn't get to this week. They allowed Jews to bring prayer books onto the Temple Mount and pray up there for the first time since 1967, when the Israelis captured the Temple Mount from the army of Jordan. So that is a huge deal.
That is so huge. Was it Moshe Dayan who said, no, pull that, because an Israeli flag was taken up there?
Right. Moshe Dayan had it taken down. He was like many of the early Zionists who wound up settling Israel.
Yeah,
and
he was
nation,
secular.
Socialist and secular. And so he just saw it as
this is going to cause problems.
It's historical significance. We'll let Jews and Muslims share and Christians have equal access to it. And of course, the arrangement, which they call the status quo, has made nobody happy for 50 years, 60 years.
May I suggest, though, that may have been the Lord saying, not yet?
Yeah, good point. So anyway,
we'll take it.
We will take you to the Temple Mount, and we will pray quietly.
And we won't kiss.
No, we got scolded for sharing a kiss on the Temple Mount because that was disrespectful. I was like, okay, all right, no problem. We didn't know.
We're married.
We won't do it again. But we will take you, of course, to the place where we think the actual site of the crucifixion was and the actual burial tomb, which are not on the typical tours.
No, they're not.
So if you want more information and you want to reserve your spot, you can go to gilberthouse.org/travel. That's gilberthouse.org/travel. Tomorrow night, the Iron and Myth episode that I thought I would publish last week will actually go up tomorrow night.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was a discussion of...
aliens?
Aliens, yes. We talk about the Steven Spielberg film and why it was no big deal.
I know.
Yeah. The trailers
Much
are
ado
more
about
exciting
nothing.
than the film, yeah. And but the way aliens are depicted in film and on TV, and how we as Christians can use those stories to kind of open discussions about, the fact that humanity has been visited by non-human intelligences for thousands of years. We just call them angels, or watchers, or, demons. So that'll be tomorrow night. And of course, tomorrow morning, the Gilbert House Fellowship. We're back in the book of Isaiah 14.
Oh, finally.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. May not even make it all the way through that chapter.
That's true. We might not, because there is so much in Isaiah 14. How art thou fallen, O Lucifer? Oh,
well, man. It's not really
we'll explain Lucifer. Yeah, it's not a real name. So anyway, that's just one of the things we'll get into tomorrow. So until then, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. We love you guys so very much. And so does Jesus. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy.